This rock is not alive. It doesn't breathe, think, or make decisions. It simply exists. But neither does this car. And yet, when you drive it, it feels alive. Not just as a machine, but as something with personality, with character, maybe even with a soul. I've lived this strange connection firsthand. My first car was a 1987 BMW E33 series, and man, we had our own language. The ventilator would only work if I switched it to second speed and then back to first. A little ritual between us. The dashboard squeaked when the rain was coming, like it was warning me. Whenever friends drove it, I'd give them this crazy list. Be gentle with the second gear and don't worry about those chirping noises coming from the speedo when you hit 5000 RPM. That's just how we chose it's happy. And they'd look at me like I was nuts, but any old car owner gets it. These aren't flaws, they're personality traits, right? The question is, why do we feel this way about hunks of metal and rubber? Or maybe the better question is, what makes something feel alive in the first place? Is it the ability to move, to think, to feel, or is it something else entirely? We surround ourselves with dead things, your phone, your chair, that rock. But sometimes these dead things feel alive. And nowhere is this feeling stronger than with old cars. At least to us, enthusiasts. But why? And more importantly, what does this tell us about ourselves? Besides the fact that we are all a little weird for getting emotional about oil-leaking metal boxes on wheels. You see, your brain is a pattern-detecting machine. Every second it's scanning the world for signs of life. Because for most of human history, detecting something alive could mean the difference between dinner and being dinner. We became so good at detecting life that we started seeing it everywhere. In the clouds, in the mountains, in the stars. But in 1944, two psychologists, Heider and Simmel, conducted a simple experiment. They showed people a video of geometric shapes moving around a screen. Just a circle, a square, and triangles. But people didn't see shapes. They saw a story. They saw characters. They saw motivation, emotion, and conflict. None of this was real. These were just shapes moving on a screen, but our brains couldn't help but create a narrative, complete with personalities and motivations. This is called animacy perception, our tendency to attribute life and intention to things that shouldn't have them. And it's not just a quirk of our psychology, it's a fundamental part of how we make sense of the world. This powerful pattern detection ability doesn't just apply to moving shapes, it extends to everything around us, including the machines we drive. And that brings us to our main question. Why do old cars, with their imperfections, seem to trick our brains into thinking they have personality? But here's where it gets really interesting. What if I told you that your brain isn't just being fooled? What if it's recognizing something real? In psychology, there's something called the effort heuristic. It suggests that we value things more when we can see the effort that went into them. You connect more with a handmade ceramic bowl than a perfect machine-made one, right? A computer-generated painting versus one made with real brushstrokes. You see, the same principle applies to cars. Modern vehicles are engineered to eliminate effort. Every input is controlled by computers, smoothed out, optimized. But old cars, they make you work for it. That door that needs to be closed just so. That specific sequence to start the engine on a cold morning. Like a secret handshake you've developed with the machine. The way the gearbox feels different until it warms up. Like it needs a coffee before it can function properly. Just like you. These aren't bugs, they're features. At least to our pattern-seeking brains. Every time you interact with these imperfections, you're not just operating a machine, you're having a conversation. And sometimes that conversation is but a conversation nonetheless. But if imperfections make things feel more alive, why do we keep trying to make everything perfect? And more importantly, what happens to our experience when we remove all the imperfections? Let's play a game. I'm gonna show you these two driving experiences. Which one feels more alive to you? If you pick the second one, congratulations, your brain is lying to you. But it's lying in the most beautiful way possible. You see, speed isn't just about numbers, it's about how our senses interpret motion. Consider this, astronauts orbiting Earth are moving at about 27,000 kilometers per hour, fast enough to circle our entire planet in 90 minutes. That's like going from New York to LA in about 8 minutes. but they don't feel like they're moving at all. You see, without reference points, without vibration, without sound, speed becomes meaningless. But in an old car, every bump, every vibration, every sound triggers thousands of neurons firing in patterns eerily similar to how we process living beings. But modern cars filter all this out. They're designed to isolate you from the imperfections of the outside world, but in doing so, they also filter out the very things that make driving feel exciting. Which makes you wonder, in our quest to make cars better, faster, and smoother, have we actually made them less engaging? What have we lost in the pursuit of perfection? You see, car manufacturers have noticed this disconnect. That's why they're now trying to artificially inject personality back into their vehicles. Take BMW's iVision D concept car for example, and the D stands for Digital Emotional Experience. Yeah, I know. D isn't just a car, it has a personality, expressive headlights, a voice, even a sense of humor. It can change colors, it can wink at you. It tries to forge a bond, not just through function, but through interaction. But honestly, it feels like a glorified design student project. You know, one of those where you have to invent a gimmicky narrative to justify the product. It's trying so hard to be futuristic that it just ends up feeling ridiculous. BMW even created a commercial starring Arnold freaking Schwarzenegger that specifically addresses nostalgia for old cars. The Terminator himself telling us our cars need personalities. You see, the ad acknowledges that modern vehicles have lost some soul and presents these new interactive features as a way to rebuild that connection. But does a car programmed to act alive really feel alive? It's like putting a smiley face sticker on a robot and expecting it to be your friend.
Sounds like mobility is becoming more human, right?
Then there's engine sound enhancement, a curious trick used by almost every major car manufacturer today. Electric cars are naturally silent, and modern gasoline engines are quieter than ever, but silence is unsettling. It breaks the illusion. So car companies fake it. BMW, Porsche, Ford, Mercedes and all others pump artificial engine noise into the cabin, carefully engineered to make you feel like you're driving something raw, even when you're not. The Hyundai Ioniq 5N takes this even further. It's a fully electric performance car, but it has a mode where it's supposed to feel like a traditional gasoline-powered car. It actually cuts electric power when you hit the upshift pedals and adjusts the torque delivery to mimic the feel of changing gears in a conventional car. A manufactured imperfection to make something feel more real. These are all attempts to recreate cars with personality, something that we lost in our pursuit of technological advancement. So we have to ask, are these just clever tricks? Or are they desperate attempts to fill a void we don't fully understand? And more importantly, do they work for you? So, were old cars objectively better? No. Objectively, old cars were worse in almost every measurable way. They were slower, less efficient, more polluting, more dangerous, less reliable. Well, that's debatable. But here's the thing, these imperfections weren't just problems. They were raw material for something more human, something that's harder to define but impossible to ignore. You and your car with all its personality quirks and unexpected surprises. And this brings us to something even more fundamental about human nature. We don't just like things with a soul, we like things we can master. At our core, we crave challenges. It's why we get hooked on learning instruments, perfecting a craft, or nailing that rev match downshift. The reward isn't just in the achievement, it's in the journey of mastery. It's why we keep playing video games that make us throw controllers across the room. That's why we're drawn to things with a soul. We want to master them, and in doing so, we become part of them. Alright, now let's drop the romanticism for a second and let's get real. We spent so much time looking backward thinking that things were better back then that we've missed the obvious. We're living right now, and this is actually a great time to be alive. Why? Because we've got the best of both worlds. Classic cars are full of personality, but let's be honest, that personality can also be exhausting. That's exactly why I couldn't keep my E30 as a daily driver for more than 2 years. The constant tinkering, the unpredictability, it wears you down. But here's the thing, today we don't have to choose between passion and practicality, excitement or luxury. We can have them both. Need comfort? Get yourself a new car. You'll have a machine that's designed to make life as smooth as possible. You want to focus on the road, not your car breaking down. Today's cars let you do that. And honestly, it's better to have something that just works every day. But maybe you're craving a little excitement, a sense of connection, a reminder that you're driving something with a character. Well, you can still get that too. Hop into an old car and suddenly it's like you're part of a live performance. You feel the road in a way that no modern car can replicate. Sure, it's imperfect, but that's what makes it thrilling. And I know all that might seem obvious, but somehow it's still a debate. Some people swear by old cars, others by new ones, like it's an all or nothing decision. But in reality, we do have a choice. And that's the beauty of it. And here's the paradox. Part of what makes old cars so special is precisely that they are old. You see, if manufacturers were still making them just like they used to, we wouldn't romanticize them the way we do. It's the rarity, the nostalgia, the fact that they belong to another time. That's what makes them irresistible. And that's the very reason this obsession exists in the first place. Now let's talk about new cars that break the mold. Not all modern machines are soulless or boring. Some of the newer cars out there are designed with the joy of driving in mind. Because apparently some engineers actually remember that cars are supposed to be fun, not just smartphones with wheels. Sure, they might not have the connection to the road of a 60s muscle car, but they make up for it in their precision. New sports cars can plant you on the road like you're glued to the pavement. The steering feels laser accurate and the suspension keeps you grounded no matter how sharp the curve. There's something deeply satisfying about getting into a new car and just driving. Yes, even this one. I know what you're thinking, but I've actually driven it and I was seriously impressed. I used to believe all EVs were boring and lame. And to be fair, yeah, most of them are. But not this one. Yeah, there's no sound, but you don't actually miss it. The whole car feels futuristic, built in a way that makes sound unnecessary. And honestly, I take the electric whine over fake V8 noises any day. And the steering, shockingly precise, with real feedback, something most modern cars completely lack. You know, I think auto manufacturers should take notes from Porsche on how to make a vacuum cleaner that's actually fun to drive. And I know, I've been trashing modern cars for being soulless, bringing up the effort heuristic and all that, and now I'm praising one. But just to be clear, I'm not saying it gives you the same experience as a classic car, nor does it replace the thrill of a screaming V12. But it proves that a modern car, even an electric one, can still have the elements that make driving exciting. It's just a different kind of exciting. So let's be clear, we don't need to choose between the good old days and the future. The beauty of now is that we can have it all. The past wasn't better, the present is the best we've had. It's about combining the best elements of both to create something even more exciting. Like how we kept the best parts of the 80s, the music, and left behind the worst parts, the hair. Wait. That also came back. Never mind. So, the next time someone says the good old days, just remember, we're living in the best of both worlds. Whether you're craving comfort or chasing excitement, we've got the perfect ride for every moment. And that's the real beauty of now. So, what kind of car makes you feel alive? And more importantly, has it ever left you stranded in an embarrassing location? Because those are the stories we really want to hear in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out a lot. So, thank you everybody and see you in the next video.